You're listening to Dropping Pins, a story-based learning series from the OKS Hunter podcast, hosted by Derek Melkor, and aimed at helping you hone your whitetail hunting skills. You'll hear the aha moments when known and unknown proven whitetail killers started consistently putting mature bucks on the ground.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Derek here from the OKS Hunter Network. Welcome to this episode of Dropping Pins. Today is going to be a little bit different. I am not in the recording studio. I am out in the way more fun studio. I'm out in the big woods, Northeastern Wisconsin. I'm in the Nicolet National Forest, and today I am doing some scouting. This is going to be a different episode. This isn't really a podcast at all. This is kind of just a video log of me doing some scouting in some areas that I'm familiar with but have not been in and have totally changed in the last 7 or 8 years. So today I'm going to take you along. I'm scouting for the opening weekend of our Wisconsin firearms season, which starts a week from today. A lot of our areas that my dad and I were planning on hunting, he's been up and bow hunting a lot, and he has not been having much luck. Not many deer. The deer have all kind of shifted away from the spots he was hunting, so he went back to collect some cameras in an area that we were planning on gun hunting, and he just said it didn't look good. He was not happy with the sign he found, what was on the cameras. That's a cool little feather. Some woodpecker feathers here. He wasn't happy, so he kind of came up with a backup spot, but I told him I'd come up this weekend and I would spend most of the day today, Saturday, scouting and trying to find a spot for us for this upcoming weekend. So that's what I'm doing. The name of the game is a little bitty rub here. Little tiny guy. The name of the game today is find deer sign in areas where I think deer will escape to. So the whole plan. Right now I got a creek bottom down below me. It's all cedars, lowland. There's lots of blowdowns. And as I head back away from the road here, I'm going to get into some clear cuts. I've not been in any of these clear cuts, so I have no clue what they look like. There's a couple different age class back here as they came in and logged from the big windstorms we've had. Straight line winds that knocked down tens of thousands of acres up here, and they came in and they've been logging for the last 4 years. So there's all different age cuts. But what I'm trying to do today is I parked my truck just on the side of the road. I did not park in the normal parking area because I'm trying to figure out a way to come in and get in early, and then when everybody starts coming into the woods from the public side, from the private sides, I'm trying to get a spot where we can kind of be in the middle, quietly waiting in the morning, and as human pressure pushes in, hopefully deer get pushed back to us and we're kind of in these little sanctuary spots. So I've got some spots marked on the map that are like low-lying areas within clear cuts, where they, steep little hillsides where they don't get their machines in, and they're still down trees and it's just thicker. I got a few of those spots marked that I'm going to walk and check out. The only bad part is this. We're dealing with lots of fog this morning, which scouting clear cuts really would like to be able to see what I'm looking at across, because obviously if I gotta stand in 5 sticks with 8ers. If I can be in a clear cut and see, sure it would be nice if this fog lifted, so I could actually see how much visibility there is. But hopefully as the day goes on, fog lifts. There's already a lot of deer tracks coming back in here. So, like I said, this is an area that I've hunted. We've had good luck back in this general area I just haven't been back here for a long time. So you guys can see this. There's a big blowdown mess. There's a couple gullies that drop down to the creek bottom. Then there's a couple big ridges back in here. That's kind of where I'm headed. So, all right. Looks like I'm gonna have to put this away for a minute. But that's kind of the mission today. Cover ground. If this area doesn't turn up anything good, I've got 3 more areas that I've been studying on the map that I'd like to go look at. So I'm just gonna have to walk fast. Cover ground, see what looks good. Here you guys can see this whole bottom is all choked full of blowdowns. So there's lots of new growth in here, but everything's wet this morning. I'm probably gonna be slipping and sliding across these logs. So, all right, I'm diving in. I'm gonna keep you guys posted all day. So I'll show you anything that I find and kind of what my thought process is behind it. So, all right, as soon as I find something, I'll be talking to you guys again. All right, so I got up into that deer. Yeah. Yep. 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 Well, I was just gonna flip the up. Very top of the hill. Oh, what was that, buck? Pretty sure that was a buck. As it kind of crested up the hill there, I think I got a glimpse of main beam. Very hard to see, but looked like it was a halfway decent basket rack. It's still running that side hill there. I was just flipping the camera on to show you guys that I got into the cut, and this is about the age I'm working with. So lots of berry bushes, lots of whips, and then we got pretty good popple regeneration, which is this is a pretty good age for them to feed on. It's not really super thick in here yet for bedding cover in the fall, but this is a great age for them to feed on. Seeing that deer right on this hillside is a nice little bonus. This is a nice little flat right here that drops down to the creek. So I'm gonna look for sign in here. There's a ridge right here. Man, if a guy got up in one of those trees, you could see this whole flat down below and potentially whatever's on the other side of this hill in the cut. So I'm gonna go check this out. I did bring a couple of cell cams with me. So I got my backpack. The thought behind those was I don't even know if they'll get reception in here, but if I find 2 or 3 different areas that look promising, I'm gonna throw cameras up in each and kind of let that help me over the week decide where I want to sit. As I mentioned before, I do have a stand with me. Ooh, that deer was bedded right here. Fresh track. Bedded right below this hillside in this nice thick patch, because that deer knew it could hear anything coming, and it did. They heard me coming from about 80 yards away. But there's a series of rubs through here. So I'm also looking for spots to potentially hang a camera to see what's using the area over this week and possibly inform my decision. I'm not really looking for deer movement, like patterns, more or less just where is there a decent buck, because I'm gonna end up hunting in a spot that I think they'll retreat to. There's just so much pressure in this area, which is normal, that you almost have to plan for not where is their deer sign, but where are the deer gonna go when guns start going off and people start heading into the woods. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. All right, I'm coming up this hill. I wish this fog was burned off so I could see what the rest of this cut looks like, but it is what it is. All right. Looks like there's a bit of a trail traversing this hilltop. A couple of rubs. Halfway decent trail here. Drops off down to the creek bottom there. Some more rubs right over there. All right. There's some deer sign. Curious to see how they relate. This is real steep. Wherever this flattens out to drop down to that creek, that might be a good spot. So I'm gonna kind of peter around out that way. I'll just keep following this edge to see when this hilltop levels out a bit. Yeah, there's been some bucks in here. It's always hard in this young stuff to tell how big deer are, because there's no big trees to rub. It's all regrowing, so all the trees are tiny. So when you see them snapped, that's obviously a better sign than if you just see one of these small ones rubbed. A buck with any age on him, it's got some muscle, is gonna snap these off. So I wish I could have got a better look at that buck we jumped. Deer are definitely relating to this cut though. I mean, part of me likes doing stupid things like climbing up one of those trees in the middle and just having a visual, but I definitely want to see how they would dive down into this cover. So I'm gonna keep walking, show you guys anything good. All right, so I had jumped that buck 2 ridges over. There was a big gully that came down out of the cut and dropped down into the creek bottom right on the other side of this knob. And then here's a smaller little drainage gully that's dropping down into this bottom. Walking this edge, my thought process is inside that edge is just cedars. And then as you go down, I mean, there's lots of blowdowns, but there's the creek down there. And the reason I'm walking this edge is, yeah, deer like edges, but it's kind of all about access. So the main trail, as I mentioned, I'm not going in down the main way that most of the hunters who access this go on. There's a trailhead across these clear cuts, and that's where all the logging activity took place. So that's where they were entering all these clear cuts with their equipment. So the trails are wide open, they're big roads. So it's gated, but it's really easy walking, and that's where most people come in from. Problem with that is you're coming into the middle of the clear cuts, and then anywhere you go, anywhere you spider web off of that, you have to walk through the clear cut to get to your spot. The reason I'm starting this edge is because potentially I can walk in the cedars. If I can find a clear enough path, I can walk in the cedars in the bottom all the way down as far as I want and then cut up this hill and be on the edge. And any north wind or any west wind, which is most predominant usually for late November Wisconsin, it's gonna blow my scent right back down into that bottom. So I have like fresh clear cut in front of me that I've not disturbed, I've not walked through. And then when the other people access from the clear cuts, they should bump deer, even in the dark. They should bump deer toward this edge. That's why I'm looking for these little cuts or drainages that lead to this edge. So that's what I'm looking for. Now those drainages had good sign, some nice trails. So I did mark a spot, I marked a tree that's potentially gonna be good. But I'm still gonna look. I got a long ways to walk, so I'm gonna mark spots. I did not carry my stand. So I'm just gonna cover ground. And then once I've seen as much as I can see, I'll make a decision about tree stands. This edge is really nice because it's adjoining to some old hardwoods. So the deer have much easier access into the woods to access the creek bottom. Whereas down in those little gullies is really bad with wind-blown damage. There's actually quite a few tracks on this edge right here. So I'm gonna kind of keep an eye on this. Yeah, it looks pretty decent here. Maybe I'll find a spot for a camera if I see some big trails coming in and out. But there's tracks. There's tracks throughout. There's a couple rubs up here. There's a couple oaks mixed in on the hardwood side. So keep looking, see what makes sense in my brain. All right. All right. I just hung first camera of the morning. It's right on the edge. Last video clip I took, I was walking up this edge, and I said I really liked how the deer could funnel into this little patch of hardwoods that did not get hit. And then it comes out to the cut. And right here, a really nice trail. You guys can see that's a nice big track. There's tracks going in and out that are kind of following this edge, but also there's a knob that goes out this way, a nice little flat that drops down to the creek. And there's tracks and a nice rub here. And then there's a little gully on the other side. I've not gone down there yet, but I was looking at this tree right here for a potential stand site. I can see almost all of this clear cut. I can see the one gully there. All of this access to that little point that's in the hardwoods comes right through here. All of the red brush here, these whips, are all browsed really good. You can see there's fresh tracks. The deer are really using this. All kinds of tracks coming across here. So I threw a camera there. Those trees right there, I think I'd probably get into that one. I could get up nice and high, and I could see really well out over almost all of this. It's not a super high point, but it's just high enough where from that tree I could see out over here. This trail is pretty beat right here. I'm gonna go see what the gully looks like on this side. But if I don't find anything else, I think I'd be pretty happy sitting in that tree right back there. So I've got a pin dropped on Spartan Forge. There's rubs all over in here. You can see they're browsing, ripping stuff off. There's another little rub right over here. So they're working this edge right here. So I'm gonna keep looking and keep skirting this edge, see what else I can find. But one potential spot in the bag, so that's good. Let's see what else we can find. Ooh, there's that wet log comment I made earlier. I'm gonna end up on my butt eventually. All right, here we go. Well, I jumped those does right into this first little valley where you can see that thick fog line. And then that hillside went back in, and like that's a big oak. There's acorns. So there's pretty good acorns right there. There's a decent trail coming along the edge here that's got a couple rubs and some tracks on it. And I got to this little beech tree, and I was like, oh, you know, some decent tracks here. I got to looking. This branch is snapped off. This branch is snapped off. And then you can see some tracks, and this is all snapped. There's fresh tracks right here. And that looking branch right there is freshly broken, heading down into this valley. See fresh tracks. That's a pretty decent track right there. So that oak tree actually looking pretty good. I'm gonna doctor up this scrape. I'm gonna piss in it, and I might think about throwing a camera up here too. So yeah, it looks good. All right. Seen a murder of crows that big. There must have been 50 crows. Well, anyway, camera here. Fresh broke looking branch scrape. Scrape right there. There's a broken rub right there. Those oaks are right back here, so that's the tree I was thinking of potentially getting in. But I got this camera, should be able to get motion or movement on this edge and on this trail that comes out by these scrapes. So, camera set. If I could find, if there was a tree right in here, this is where I'd like to be, is on this far side of this scrape. But it doesn't look like there's many tree options. But we'll take a look here. There's lots of tracks. Poop. There's a lot of sign right here in this bottom. I really like this. So, oh, there's a nice rub right there. Broken off and twisted from that oak. I could kind of see this bottom, but I gotta see if I can find something. This is, you can see this bottom is a little bit thicker. That's the kind of cover. There's tracks coming out. They're all coming out of this edge right here. There's all kinds of tracks. Some good rubs. Yeah, this looks good. This looks really good. Nice little bed right there. I just love these little pockets of unlogged stuff where the loggers just didn't finish out in here, and you just get these blowdowns, and especially this is in a little bottom, so it just makes for excellent bedding cover. God, do I wish there was a tree right here. I could always make that work. It's a little bit out into the opening. I'm gonna see if one of these would work, but I really love to be able to see this little bottom and hillside. That scrape is like 100 yards back there. I'd love to be sitting over this, watching this thick stuff. I might have to go take a look at that tree, but there's a lot of tracks in here. Maybe if it looks pretty good on the other side of this valley, maybe I should get up on this point here. But you guys can see how, compared to that other area of the cut, this bottom, the trees are all bigger. It's just a little bit thicker heading out into here. And that little bit of terrain difference that little bit of vegetation difference is sometimes the key to funneling movement. Those big bucks will relate to that little bit of thicker cover differently. And when people start putting pressure, they'll take these kind of areas, these little low spots, to sneak through the terrain. So I'm gonna look at this point and see if one of these trees would work, or if I should go back and look at that one out in the clear cut right there. Well, I found a spot I really like. I think I'll probably end up hanging a stand, but I'm still gonna do some walking. But you guys, you kind of see there's a ridge line here. This cut looks like it's a little bit older, so the stuff's a little bit more grown up. It's a really nice valley that pulls out of the middle of the clear cut and kind of drifts right down toward the cedar bottom. Right across there, that big tree right there is a big oak. One of those trees, either the oak or one of these ones behind it, if I can get up 5 sticks super high, there's a big trail that I just walked. It runs this finger down. Then you got the gully that runs down. You got that ridge top. I think if I can get up in one of these trees right over here, I can watch the scrape on the other side and that flat, and I think I could shoot all the way down to this trail, because this trail has some big tracks on it. You can see it. They're freshly chewing it up. They're working down this ridge, and this little bit thicker one, I don't see as much deer sign, but the tracks look bigger, and there's a couple rubs. Not a monster, but the fact that I can definitely see this ridgetop and probably shoot to it from that other spot where that oak is, really, really good sign. And strangely enough, I haven't seen any hunter sign. So I think the plan of walking in, you guys can see the trail runs right through here. I think the plan of walking in a different way, I think it's gonna work. If I can come in from that bottom and not mess up these clear cuts, as soon as people start coming in, I think the deer are gonna take all these little valleys that drop down right past that tree. And that tree's already got good deer sign around it. That fresh scrape was nice to see, but really, it's the people pushing them down. Nobody's hunting down in this bottom. It is just chock full of blowdowns. It's really nasty. Perfect cover. A deer does not have to get in there far, and they could lay up there. There's a nice trail on this side hill. I mean, a deer can get in there and just hole up there for all of gun season. That's the kind of stuff they do. They just get in a bottom like this. They just get in a bottom, and like this is a great example. Steep hillside. They go lay behind a blowdown. All the wind coming over the top of this trees sucks back in there. All the thermals dump down there. A deer can lay right in that thick shit. No one's ever gonna see it, and it can smell almost 360 degrees around it. Another nice rub down here. What we were just talking about, how they can lay in these bottoms. These aren't super high rubs, but you can see they got a trail here. But somebody's nicking up some trees. So I got 2 cameras hung, one on both sides of that tree that I like. I'm gonna press on. I got some spots way back that I wanna check for sign. And then I'll make a decision of where that stand's gonna go up. The nice thing about these closer spots that I just showed you is I think I could bring a climber back here, slap it on a tree for my dad, and it's not super far back. If we come in from that other way, it's not terrible, which is good because his back has been giving him problems, so he doesn't want to walk too far. So then we can hunt together. And if he got one, I could help him get it out. So we might end up doing that. Who knows? It's pretty cool that we could hunt together. We did last year, and it was awesome. Dad shot a nice buck, and got to hang out together all day, dragging him out. All right, keep trucking here. Time to speed it up. Quick little side note. So far, lots of deer sign. Tracks all over. Looks really, really good, which is what I wanted to just talk about real quick. So when this straight line windstorm came through Northeastern Wisconsin and did all sorts of damage, my dad and I had just hung, I think it was 23 cameras, SD card cams, the week before. And then the storm comes through in the summer, levels, I mean, it just did tens of thousands of acres. Just, I mean, literally leveled. Pretty much all the hardwood trees got smashed because they could not bend in the winds. It's a pretty decent track right there. Because they couldn't bend. So a lot of these younger trees and pines, they're a little bit more softwood and could bend and flex. A lot of them lived, not all of them, but I mean, it pretty much, wow, that's like a running track, and it's old, but the pads of that track are quite large. Quite large. Sorry. Yeah, that track is freaking huge. Look at that. Holy moly. That thing's gigantic. Hopefully that guy comes running by next week. But, I mean, it leveled and completely changed almost the entire area that I grew up hunting and that my dad had been focused on hunting for the last, 2 decades. And obviously a lot of other people's hunting areas, because this is all public, got changed. A lot of people thought it was ruined. Oh, it's terrible, I'm gonna have to switch areas. And those of you who know where I'm going with this, already know that this was mature timber. This national forest had not been logged in many, many, many years because of anti-logging propaganda and it getting held up in courts in California. So a lot of the woods was just kind of dead woods, mature standing timber all over. And nature kind of takes care of itself. So what man wouldn't do with logging, nature just took care of it. It leveled all this woods, and then the state brought in logging companies. Oh, there's Big Boy, but fresher. There he is. And running these logging roads. Oh yeah. Sorry, I just really like big bucks, big tracks. They are just running this road. Holy crap. Look at this. Big old dew claws. This trail hooks right down to one of my very first dropping pins episodes. It was the very first. I told a story about a swamp stand that I hunted. And that swamp is right here. That's the start of the swamp. So kind of back in the old haunt here. It's good to see the deer still like this area. But anyway, yeah, so the windstorms came through. So distracted, sorry. Windstorms came through. Logging companies came in to harvest the timber, make a little money for the state. And the deer herd is doing better than I've seen it in probably 25 years. When I first started hunting when I was 12, there was a pretty good deer population up here. We used to see one opening morning, my mom and I sat together in a ground blind. I think we saw 20, 21 or 22, 23 deer in the national forest. Some of those could have been repeat clients walking back and forth throughout the day, but that's still pretty incredible. It hasn't been like that for quite a long time. So it's good to see the deer population coming back. These clear cuts and blowdowns just offer so much opportunity for growth and diversity of vegetation. Now that sunlight can hit the forest floor, those mature trees were just blocking any vegetation from growing for so long that it really narrows down how much browse the deer have. And in some areas, that's not a big deal. But when all the deer are eating is browse, it's a big limiting factor. So it's good to see the deer population is up. Definitely more wolves around, but it's not terrible. I know the guys further north central have it much worse. Grouse. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I actually really like that these areas have all changed. The vegetation has changed. It's fun, you get to learn some new stuff. So I'm pretty excited to head back in here in my old area, see what it looks like. I just wanted to talk about one of the tools I use to try to pick points to scout. I was walking that edge in the beginning of the segment here, and that was literally just edge. Just working the edge of the clear cut. That's classic. Can't go wrong with edges. But what I'm doing up here, if you look, this is a giant ridge top up above the swamp I used to hunt. This used to be just open hardwoods. There's oaks scattered throughout. And there'd be deer sign up here, but most of it was nighttime. They'd be in the little thicker pockets all around here. They'd filter up here in the nighttime. With this being clear cut now, one of the things I did is I got on Spartan Forge and I used their LiDAR mapping. LiDAR, if you're unfamiliar, is 100% terrain based. It does not show any vegetation or trees. It is literally like a living contour map. So instead of having lines showing hills, it shows you definition, highlights, and shadows. And you can see elevation change down to like 1 meter. So like 3 foot elevation change, which from an aerial satellite view is incredible. And what I did is, in this monotonous clear cut, I dropped pins along edges of terrain changes. So in an area that has, this is a huge flat, there's small areas with little gullies, little tiny valleys and potholes, like that one right there. That drops down like 20, 30 feet. It is not logged because they couldn't get their equipment down there. And that's right where that broken off snapped rub was. Working around the edge of that, because the deer will bed in those pockets. There's still cover in there because they're not logged. They'll just bed in those pockets. They won't be seen. They can get swirling winds coming across this clear cut from any direction. It hits those little gullies and that wind will just swirl down in there. So they've got a little bit of scent advantage, and by isolating themselves in the middle of a clear cut, they just don't get bothered. So using that LiDAR feature, that's kind of how I'm deciding to check spots up in this clear cut. I'm gonna look for any of those little terrain changes, those gullies, and see how they relate to each other. If you can find two valleys or two potholes or a little steep pothole that they didn't log close to a valley, that's making little micro funnels. And in the big woods, it's usually as good as it gets. It's those little micro funnels. You don't have inside corners like fields. Clear cuts can kind of work like that, but depending on the age, a lot of times they relate differently to the clear cut than they do to a field, obviously. But I just wanted to share that LiDAR tip. I learned from DIY sportsman Garrett Prawl to do the presets on Spartan Forge. And I set mine up just like he did in one of his tutorial videos. I've got the UAV on one preset, LiDAR on another, and it is the most useful scouting tool I've ever used. If you're a map guru and you have not tried that, try it. It's incredible. The terrain looks incredibly different from, say, a contour map on an Onyx. It's not even close. Not even close. You can see so much more. So I'm working my way through this giant clear cut to the very back edge, and I'm checking out these changes in terrain as I go. This stuff is browsed pretty good. There's deer poop everywhere, but I haven't found like a pocket yet that I'm interested in. So you can see up here, we got a terrain change. There's more standing trees because it dips into a valley. So I'm definitely gonna check the edges of that and see how it relates to this clear cut. There's a rub right there. See, as soon as you get close to that terrain change, that's where the deer are obviously gonna congregate. They are creatures of edge. But even like something small like that, and a sea of monotonous terrain, those little differences, little microcosms of vegetation, of shade, of windbreak. That's what the guy has got to focus on. And you won't know they're good till you walk them. So use the Spartan Forge and then get your butt out there and walk it. Fog is slowly lifting, not as fast as I would like. So, all right, I'm gonna check out this point here. Ooh, here's some rubs. All right, there's a rub. There's a rub right over there. Some rubs here. These look like they were made pretty early in the season, probably when all these ferns were still standing. And this provided more cover, would be my guess. But let's go see if this pocket of woods is harboring any deer activity. Wouldn't doubt that we jump one out of here. Another rub right there. All right, kind of a cool spot here. I just came from the clear cut. Clear cut's out here. It kind of flattens up on the top. And down here, there's a couple fingers that go down into a bottom. And then there's a pretty good spine of a ridge that comes up to the edge of the clear cut here. And I'm standing right in a little saddle. And then the other side of the hill picks back up. So the deer kind of round the top here. And there isn't a giant trail this year, but there's a big rub from maybe 2 years ago on this oak tree. And then right next to it is like a historical, kind of a little signpost rub here. This pine has been hit, so you can tell these deer have come through the saddle for many years. And obviously, pretty good bucks are using it to traverse from one ridge top to the other. I would have thought with the clear cut coming within 15 yards of this saddle and this trail that there'd be some fresh rubs. Because I mean, that clear cut, you think that would just, enhance the saddle. But I don't see many rubs right here. I've seen a couple, but I have not seen any buck sign better than what I found in the first spot. There's some tracks back here though. Doesn't look terrible. I'm coming up on a flat up here. It should have the edge of the clear cut run right along it. So I'm curious to see if there's any scrapes in this bigger timber. Just to show me that bucks are working this area this year. Otherwise I'll start looping back. But take a look. Well, I hit the top above that saddle and I started working my way through, and this is relatively unchanged by the windstorm. Along the edge of the hill, I mean, this drops off good 150 feet. It's a real steep hillside, so there's some wind blowing up here, but this is pretty open. And seems like a good cruising spot. I used to hunt this ridge long time ago. We would get a south wind and the wind would blow across. I would hunt this leeward side, and I missed a really nice cruising buck back here one year. Just misjudged him, but I was just flying through here. Gross, just scared me. I was just cruising through here and spotted this from a distance. You can just see all of these branches have been busted off through the years. This is definitely a big time scraping tree. Pretty good track in it right there. Somebody was fired up. There's an old rub here, old rub there. I might throw a camera on this just for fun. I don't see myself necessarily hunting here, but there is a big funnel where there's this hard edge, this big steep hill, funnels down into a finger ridge. I used to run a camera on that years and years ago when I was getting our big target buck, the big 6 on that. So I might throw a camera here and just see what's working this, because that's a big track. So I think I'm going to do that. Well, just found another spot I like. And I got another camera set up here because I just like this terrain right here. It's a spot I've walked by, I mean, countless times when this was standing hardwoods. And I've never come up here. But I just made a loop. Those scrapes, those 2 big scrapes I hung a cell cam on, are on that back ridge. You can see that back tree line. And then they come out to the clear cut. There's a nice little high ground, kind of follows over here. There's a great big pothole valley here, and this drops off into another valley. And right on top here, there's a couple of little fingers, one that goes that way, one that goes this way, that meet a couple old logging roads. So there's a perfect oak branch. I just ripped up a scrape. My cell cam is right there. I ripped up this tree. So kind of like a little visual cue as they walk. There's just a nice intersection. You can see I got a couple small rubs here. Got another rub right there. So the idea is, if I got up one of these trees, or there's a couple of trees right behind here, I have a really good visual of all these surrounding little draws. And I think if I got up high enough, my wind would even blow over this valley behind me. It's actually pretty easy to get into. It's actually pretty easy to get into. There's an old logging trail that comes up the valley down over there that I could just take up and then cut right up here and get into one of those trees, and I could see all these surrounding valleys. So I'm kind of glad I put that camera back on that scrape, even though I wasn't really planning on hunting by that scrape. That's very close to the spot. And it should tell me, as you see, this is a nice little valley. The deer have always liked this. It was kind of full of ferns and pines in this bottom. The deer would always work this. And then there's clear cuts on both sides. So this spot's sweet. But that other cell cam will show me movement along that back ridge. And then that back ridge feeds out into the clear cut on that ridge right there. So I just really like how that terrain falls. Wasn't quite as much deer sign, like tracks and poop. But I think there's still a good possibility of bucks and deer using that, just because it's such a nice little terrain trap, how everything comes together there. So I decided to come down into this bottom, right below that spot. Oh, I could definitely, those trees that we're looking at are right up there. Yeah, I could definitely potentially see down into here and maybe even get shot. But I just want to see. There used to be, and when I say used to be, I'm talking like 10 years ago. There used to be a lot of bucks that would rub along this bottom. I'm just curious. I haven't been in here in so long. There's an old rub. But I just want to see if bucks are using this bottom below this other clear cut also. We've got another group that we're pretty good friends with. My buddy Josh, who I met hunting back here. I believe his brother and Josh's nephew, his brother's son, are going to be hunting a couple ridges over on that other clear cut. So I don't want to get too close to those guys at all. I want to give them the best opportunity for success for Chris and Easton. But if I can be on this side, maybe we can kind of catch each other's off movement. So if the deer are on this ridge compared to that ridge, he can get a shot. This almost looks like a cool old bedding spot right here in this gully. But yeah, so I'm gonna keep this in the back of my mind. I am glad I brought those cameras because I've got trees picked out now, and what I would say three locations that I would be interested in hunting. And I got cameras, so that'll kind of hopefully tell me which area to get into. But you can't always rely on cameras either. They're covering a little tiny 15-foot swath, and in those clear cuts, those deer could be walking anywhere. So that's not the end all be all, but if I get a nice buck picture in the next 5 days, that's a pretty good sign. So, all right, I just got trapped up into this bowl. Gotta get out of this bowl. I'm gonna start making my way back toward the car. Well, I was on my way back to the truck, and I was walking down the main skidder trail. Saw my first set of people tracks, which I was pretty surprised I hadn't seen any earlier. But I was walking through this bottom in the clear cut, and there was a couple sets of big tracks. And this is a spot that every year I've been back here. We come berry picking with the kids in August. And every year I've come back in the summer, there's been big tracks in that same bottom. So I hit the brakes, took out my phone, flipped on the the Spartan Forge LiDAR, and I just looked for any kind of terrain trap near that bottom and found something that looks good on the map that I'm gonna go check out. Curiosity just got the best of me. I couldn't walk past it. So right now, ooh, it's actually looking better because there's a bunch of standing oaks. I'm way up high, top of this ridge. Holy crap. This is actually really cool. I'll show you in a second here. But it looked like a couple steep valleys that ran parallel, and the north edge of the valley just looked like a good pinch where deer would travel around it. Nikes, I can see forever. There's lots of oaks in that bottom. Jeez, this is pretty cool up here. It's another spot I've walked past hundreds of times, probably. Well, maybe 100 times. I've been up and down this lane for the last 15, 20 years. Hunting back here, I've never come to this spot before. Because like I said, it used to be just open hardwoods. But now, that bottom is littered with spruce and oak. And I'm gonna still look at this terrain trap, see what it looks like. There's deer crap in here, there's tracks. But it's just a really cool spot. So there's a finger ridge here. So I gotta take a look quick on my map and see where I'm at in relationship to that little terrain trap. But right now I'm just kind of curious. If I start poking over these knobs, I'm gonna bump deer. So I'm just looking. I'm gonna pull Spartan Forge out here in a second. Guy could see a lot of terrain from up here. I wonder if those oaks got acorns. Oh shit, now I'm gonna have to go down there and look. But hey, when you're out, you better scratch that itch. If there's something you wanna see, go look. Learn. So, all right, I'm gonna take a closer look at this. All right, well, I was walking up in that section of clear cut that had all those oaks, and there was some buck sign from earlier in the season, but there must have been oaks dropping like October, beginning of October, because all the rubs I saw were pretty old and pretty small. Nothing that really got me excited. But so I was walking this ridge top. I looked down in the bottom, and there's a bog. It's a little mossy bog here. So there's a saddle at the end of the bog that goes across. So of course, I gotta go look at the saddle, and I want to go make a loop around this bog because if there's any bucks using this area, they'll definitely go around this bog and probably lay down some rubs on their preferred travel. So I'm gonna check this little saddle first, see what kind of trails we got. If it looks like it's getting used, then I'm gonna make a loop around that bog, look for rubs. Pretty nice little saddle, big ridge, big deep valley. So this makes a pretty nice little pinch right here. I don't know if the deer are in here much. So far, the best amount of deer sign that I found was in the beginning by that fresher clear cut where it met that little bit older one. I mean, this does not look very good. I thought there would have been a great big trail pounded through this. Because if you look, it's a big bowl. Perfect little saddle down to the bog. This should be a really good travel corridor, but there's no reason for the deer to travel through it. They won't, and it doesn't appear as though this year this is getting used very much at all. So probably gonna speed my starting up a bit. I'm gonna hit this ridge, go around this bog, and probably head back to the car, grab my lone wolf stand. I got 5 sticks. I'm gonna go throw it up in that tree overlooking that first clear cut. And then either me or my dad can use it. Ooh, another bog. So this should be just an awesome freaking pinch. Bog, deep valley with little spine ridges in between. What's not to like here? This little bog down here is actually one that I've hunted before. All right, here's a pretty good trail here. This bog goes out to a little lake, and there's a giant old rub. As you get close to that lake, obviously that lake pinches them, and they used to cross down in this bog. There always used to be big rubs where they crossed from ridge to ridge. But and we'll see if there's any good sign down here. It's pretty wet in the bog here, but this is what they always used to do down here. They'd rip apart these crappy old swamp trees. Oh, is that a fresh rub? You can see that little bit of high ground behind me. Rub from last year. And then this one looks like it might have been hit this year. Yeah, this looks like it was probably hit early in the season. Not much to it now. But the bog's pretty narrow right here. So you don't really have to cross in this bog, but the bucks always seem to lay down sign in the low spots. So if you're ever looking just to locate, are there bucks here, are there not? Go walk the low stuff. And you should see sign if there's bucks. Creek bottoms are the same way. Walk the lowest edge of thick area, and that should tell you what you want to know. Is there something here or not? Rub from last year, or maybe 2 years ago. Okay. The side hill over here is getting really nasty with blowdown, so that might narrow them. Not much there. All right, I'm gonna loop to the edge and go back around that other bog. This is kind of getting pretty nasty here with blowdowns. All right, I'm gonna loop out of here. That clear cut wasn't looking any good, and it started to get super thick with blowdowns down in this bottom. All these cedar trees are pushed over, so I made a loop down to this low ground, and we don't have many of these around here, but right here is a brown ash. And for any of you who watch any of the Northeast snow tracking, Hal Blood, Joe DeNito, the Benoits, any of those guys, well, they always say signpost rubs on brown ash. This one has not been hit in a long time, but of course, it's like the first brown ash I've seen, and it's rubbed. So those guys definitely know what they're talking about. The brown ash, for whatever reason, the bucks must love that softer bark, and they just tear those things up. So that was kind of cool. Kind of made me feel like I was in Maine tracking a big snow buck, which I would love to do, but we have not been having snow for our gun season in the recent years. It's been too damn hot. So I'm gonna come through this bottom and hopefully find a way to get back out to the main trail without having to do some gymnastics, do pole vaulting and uneven bars across all these frickin' blowdowns. But we'll see. All right, into the jungle. Into the jungle after we cross this beautiful little creek. All right, I love it up here. I've missed being up here this fall. All right, I'm gonna put this down so I don't get wet. All right, well, made it out of that bottom relatively unscathed. Actually, it was easier than I thought it was gonna be. I'm just cutting across clear cut now, trying to jump onto old logging trails, but it's pretty, it's not bad, but it's pretty messy in here with tops. So I'm slipping all over these tree trunks. And it got me thinking a little bit about fear and how fear kind of robs you of experiences. And I don't mean like fear, but guys who are afraid to maybe get deep or walk through difficult terrain in the dark, or one that always comes up, and it never comes up right away when you start scouting, but it comes up after you found a good spot. These guys always say, yeah, but how did you get one out of here? Yeah, oh, you die getting it out of here. I don't want to hunt back here. And that kind of attitude gets under my skin. I get it. Things are difficult, but fear is just going to keep you from your goals. So if your goal is to have an easy drag, or if your goal is, I only want to go somewhere in the daylight, that's fine. Do those things. But if your goals are elevating and your goal is to kill a mature deer, then do what you need to do to kill a mature deer. Walk where you need to walk. Go through the shit you need to go through. If you need to loop around to get the wind in your favor, go the extra distance and do it the right way. If you think it's going to be absolute hell dragging a deer out of there, you're probably in a spot where you got a shot. And you'll figure it out. Call some people for help. Cut that sucker up. Get a sled. Get a cart. But don't let your worries, your fears, your doubts dictate what you do in the deer woods. Because you gotta push past the average, push past the normal, and do what you need to do. That's my 2 cents. All right, back to the trailhead here. There are 2 trucks parked here, just as I anticipated. They're probably scouting for gun season also, but this is where everybody's gonna come in, so. All right, made it back out. I am walking down the woods road back to my car. Made a good loop. The location tracker is saying 5.6 as of right now, so 5.5 mile loop. Hit most of the spots. Big trail crossing right here on the woods road, and there's fresh tracks going both directions. That's pretty cool. So the plan is, I'm gonna hit most of the spots I wanted. I know I want to put a stand at that first area along the edge of the clear cut where it drops down to the creek. I got those 2 cell cams. I got that fresh scrape. I really like that little bottom below the scrape. So I think what I'm going to do is hop in the car, pull the car up to where those other trucks are parked. The main entrance there, it's the shortest, easiest way. And what I'm going to do is I'll hike the stand in there. I'll go the normal route down the logging trails through the clear cuts. It's going to be easiest. It's going to be fastest. I'll hang the stand, and then what I'll do is I'll probably scout out my route. This is where I went in, right here. So what I'll do is I'll scout a route, and I'll just walk this creek bottom all the way in, so nothing in the clear cuts hears me, sees me, smells me. And then I should be able to come up the edge to the higher clear cut and pop into my stand without causing too much of a distraction or a commotion for the deer. So that's the plan. Back at the rig, let's go get a stand hung. All right, move the car, grab the stand. This is what's going in here. It's an old sand-casted Lone Wolf platform with a newer seat post and one of the nice mesh seats for sitting all day. 5 Lone Wolf custom gear double steps with aiders, and then the trusty piece of shit sportsman's guide shooting rail that's going to allow me to reach out there and touch them. So the beginning of the scouting video, right there's the big oak tree, and the scrape tree is actually at one of these little beech trees right in between. And I'm on a little knob, and over here's a valley and another knob. So I'm going to get into this oak, hopefully up above where that second branch splits off as high as I can. This should be a big sturdy tree, even if the wind's blowing, it should be pretty steady. So I'm gonna get to stand up in the tree. Well, I made her back to the truck. I didn't really do a wrap-up video in the woods, but I got to stand up. I'm real happy with how it sat in that tree. I got it right where her two big limbs kind of jut out from the trunk, and my stand is sitting right above them. So anytime you get up high, and this is pretty high, 5 sticks spread out with aiders, each gap between the sticks, I got to really reach with my foot to get up to the next one. So I mean, I'm definitely north of 25 feet, probably closer to 30, which gives me a pretty commanding view of that clear cut. I can see the drainage, the valley to the north of me, and the ridge above it that had a big trail with some really good buck tracks on it. And then I can see the valley below me to the south, and most of the hill, the flat that runs to that big scrape under the beech tree where I put one of my cameras. So I'm real happy with what I can see. The plan is to walk in from the south, walk along the creek down in the cedar bottom as best I can into the wind. I'm supposed to be a north wind, which, I mean, that forecast could change in the next 5 days here, 6 days. But right now the plan is to walk that low bottom in the moss, try to get as quiet as possible, and then sneak up to the edge of the clear cut as I get close and walk with my nose in the wind right up to my tree, nice and quiet. I got that stand hung waiting for me. Anywhere north of Highway 64, you're allowed to leave a stand as long as it's during season. So I left a stand and my sticks, took my bottom stick off so nobody can mess with it. And I'll be able to sneak in there, hopefully somewhat quiet, and get up and watch over that bottom of the clear cut. And then I'm gonna try to get in super early, get set up nice and quiet, and spend at least an hour in the dark. That way, when most of the pressure comes in from that main trail and people start veering off into the cut, they can inadvertently push some deer down those little draws, hopefully to me. And the same can happen. There's the edge of the clear cut where it jumps off into the hardwoods. Not terribly far, there's some private land, and those people also hunt. I actually saw them on my drive out. I saw them in there with their kids, must be getting stands ready and stuff. They hunt the far eastern side of their property, which is an older cut, so they got like a nice popple slashing with some oaks. And then on the map where it drops down to the creek that runs across their property, it looks like it's just a huge nasty area of blowdowns along their creek. So I don't think they come across. I think they hunt that section on the east. So when they come into the woods also, I've got a nice little buffer because I'm west of them. So maybe they'll push some deer across the creek toward me, and then maybe one day, or some point during opening day, those deer will funnel out, hit the edge of the clear cut, do a little feeding or scent checking. And so that's the thought process. Thanks for joining me today on my little scouting session. I have not decided. I mean, I hung a stand there, but I also really like the other spot way in the back where all that terrain came together. So I've got 2 cameras near each tree that I picked. They're not right on it, but we'll see what shows over the next week and make our decision from there. But that was kind of the thought process behind it. We got to come along and see some of that terrain. Man, does it look different than it did before that windstorm. Obviously, some major changes there, but good to see buck sign throughout the clear cut. Walked across tons of tracks today, plenty of deer poop. So the deer are doing well. So pretty confident that I'll at least get eyes on deer. Whether it'll be a big buck or not, time will tell. You never know. So I like what I found today. Feeling good about it. Did not end up going to either of the other 2 areas that I had pins in, but I think this one's going to pay off. So thanks for coming along today. Appreciate you guys watching, listening, and joining me on the journey. I hope you have some great luck if your firearm season is in or coming in soon. Hope you guys have a very safe and successful hunt. Have fun out there, and thanks again for joining me. Bye.